Live Formula One.
Hello and welcome to our final podcast from Las Vegas. And what a weekend it has been. It's Rosanna Tennant alongside former Formula One driver Jolyon Palmer and racing driver Alice Powell. We've had quite a few days of action, haven't we, guys? And I have to say, the Grand Prix delivered. Jolyon Palmer, where do you rate that one? It was a really fun race, I think, right from the start to the finish.
That's the best Grand Prix of the season, isn't it?
Big claim, bold claim from Palms.
Well, because I was with you guys in Austin, the last US Grand Prix, a few races ago, and I think we were saying that might have been the best Grand Prix of the season.
Or Singapore, one of the two. Yeah.
Singapore, as a finish, was unbelievable, but for 2/3 of that race, it was abysmal. Whereas this one, the race started with a plomb and a move for the lead and loads of incident further back. And then it finished on the last lap. There was a move for second place. I'd love it if been a move for the lead, but of course Verstappen's in 2023 winning everything. I don't see another race beating this one.
Okay, so there we are. Best race of the season. Charles Leclerc, I think part of the action this evening, of course, he was involved with that first turn altercation with Max Verstappen, and he was also delivering the goods right up until the end with an amazing move on Sergio Perez. But it was Max Verstappen, as you say, Jolyon, coming out on top once again. Someone who's taken a little bit of time to warm up to his time here in Las Vegas. Wasn't a massive fan, but seemed to really get into it when it came to Parc Fermé and the Bellagio ceremony, then the podium ceremony, wearing Elvis race overalls. Was it just because he won, do you think, that he really entered into the spirit of things, Alice?
Seems that way, because he said, didn't he, on the Rolls Royce to the Bellagio for the interviews, that he was, should we go to the nightclub? Can you drop us off at the nightclub? He was feeling in the real Las Vegas spirit come the end of it. So I think the win certainly helped the mood.
Honestly, some of the comments before this weekend, even during this weekend, the negativity has been embarrassing.
From Max? Or from...
Max has been very critical of the event, and it's been a tremendous success. We say the proof of the pudding's in the eating. It's blooming delicious.
Ooh.
I've just said, I think the best Grand Prix of the year. It certainly is in the top few, and it was a big crowd. Okay, some of the American taste isn't to everyone, big introductions. We had that on when was it now, Wednesday night.
The opening ceremony, yeah.
The opening ceremony. But I remember when I was racing at Silverstone, all the drivers were mandated to go to London on the Wednesday before to go and do some loop-the-loops up Trafalgar Square. And
I remember that, yeah, absolutely.
It was a fun event, but we had to do it. Hamilton famously didn't turn up.
I was going to say, we did have an absentee.
But, that wasn't really a problem. But that was heading down to centre of London, an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Silverstone to go and do that. I think it was on the Wednesday night. And... these things, sometimes when you have a big event, you have to promote them a little bit. It's the inaugural Las Vegas Grand Prix. And I know there's a lot of razzmatazz. And I know sometimes the US way of things, the big driver introductions that we've had in the past, things aren't always to everyone's taste. But the F1 in the US is booming. 2 of the last Grand Prix that we've had before this year that have been great, Austin and then this one. And I just think, let's wait until you have the race to see if we think it's good or not. And... generally, it's great. And you can't 1 minute say, this is a shambles, this race, this isn't... If Monaco's Champions League, then this is National League. And then 50 laps later, you're singing Viva Las Vegas in an Elvis suit. Come on.
Palms, I'm glad you brought up that F1 Live event in Trafalgar Square in London, because I seem to remember something happening after that. Of course, you were driving, you then had to make your way back to Silverstone. Wasn't there a little anecdote or something? I can't remember it. Tell us.
Oh, it was a tough day, actually. I love driving up Trafalgar Square. As a Brit, it's an honour to take to my home street. It's got the tube back from
none of the people.
Well, as a Londoner, it's just the quickest way around. Jumped on the tube back, had a quick turnaround in my flat, headed up to Silverstone, got pulled. I literally jumped in the car, my Renault Clio, turned out 2 minutes from my flat. Sirens come on. I'm stopped by the police. They order me out the car. I have to put the keys on the dash. I march to the side of the road. They're starting to yell about bringing the taser over. I'm wearing my Renault top and I'm a Formula One driver now, standing with my hands up on the side of the road. And I think it was a case of major mistaken identity. I just honestly couldn't believe what was going on. It was about 9 p.m. or something at this stage. I was just trying to go to Silverstone for the Grand Prix.
Did they ask you who you were?
I'm on Clapham High Street with my hands up, wearing my Renault top. It was bizarre.
Did they say, who are you? Or did you explain who you were?
They said, in traditional fashion, where do you think you're going? I don't know. I think I might have been around the speed limit, in the vicinity thereof. But they said, where are you going? I was like, I'm off to Silverstone. I said, well, what are you doing there? I was like, well, I'm actually racing in the Grand Prix.
Oh, love it.
And then, oh, well, you should know better than it. This guy was not mucking around. So then they tried to get the tasers involved, and I said, back off, guys. I'm just trying to do my job.
Do you give them paddock tickets to get away?
No, I told them
Great to relive some of the anecdotes from Jolyon Palmer's career there. So let's bring it back to Las Vegas. What an event we've had. You've been talking about the negativity coming into it. And actually, I think we've come out, Viva Las Vegas, would we say?
Yeah, look, I'm still not, I'm not sure if I absolutely love this city. It's a wacky place, as we spoke about before. But as a race, I think it's brilliant. And I know the drivers as a track to drive, it's not a Silverstone, it's not a Suzuka. But as a race, it delivered a really cracking one for the top three, exchanging positions, pass and repass. That's always a good sign. And I was, question: if you're looking to book a ticket for next year, surely this Grand Prix now, as a fan, it's got to be in the top few races, isn't it, to come to a Las Vegas city to see a race like that? Alice?
You're ticking two things off the bucket list, aren't you, Alice, I guess?
I mean, yeah, I was one of those at the weekend that was like, oh, no. The weekend? Whatever we are, end of the week. Sort of, I don't know how I feel about this place. But now that we've had a good Grand Prix, the only thing that's difficult, I think, and maybe they need to adjust it for next year, even if it's by bringing the practices and the races back, forward a couple of hours. It's just sort of adjusting to the time difference. Go down the paddock, all of the teams, the mechanics, the press teams, the marketing, they are all absolutely knackered. They've said how hard this Grand Prix is just from the time difference. So that's the only thing. But I guess if you're not working, you're coming as a fan, then it's fine because you can sort of do what you want. But I agree. It's got to be one of those that's certainly up there.
And also, just to finish this, in regards to negativity, this race, by the way, is replaced effectively Paul Ricard, the French Grand Prix from the Canada. Let's put it all into perspective here.
It's not exactly like for like.
We've taken out a car park circuit in Paul Ricard that was moderately well attended, and we've put on an iconic street circuit. I don't get the negativity. In a season where we go to Baku, which is attended by more marshals than fans, I can't quite understand why Vegas was having so much criticism before we turned up. Okay, the water valve cover was a separate issue, and thankfully that was sorted, and that was a pretty tough start to the weekend. So I'm not taking that lightly, but as a spectacle, I think it works. What I will say is, next year we're off to Abu Dhabi next week for the finale. Next year it's the start of a triple header with Qatar and then Abu Dhabi, and it is a tiring weekend.
So it was Max Verstappen who finished P1, going from P2 on the grid to the top step of the podium. Let's just relive his race a little bit, Alice. Talk us through it.
Well, yeah, he got, as usual, a great start and sent it down the inside of Charles Leclerc all a bit too aggressively. They didn't make contact, but no way was he going to make the apex of the corner. Forced Leclerc wide. He went wide as well, which nearly opened the door for some of the others to come through. If not, the Carnage sort of kicked off behind, which sort of stopped them. But then he got that penalty, didn't he, for forcing? I think it was the correct decision. So he boxed, served the penalty. Amongst that, we had the safety car, he had a VFC as well. He come back out because he served the penalty. He was behind Russell, charged up to the back of Russell, and there was a collision. They came together. I think it was George's fault, but he damaged his front wing. Then they carried on, another safety car, and they didn't change the front wing. And we thought, well, hang on a second, surely this might hamper Max a lot. Clearly not. He came storming back through with a great drive, some great battles, and took the victory. You know, Palms got it right yesterday, predicted Max was going to win. So drinks are on him.
Palmer's proud of that prediction, aren't you?
I'm honestly not even proud of it.
I'm joking. In 2023, I'm hardly giving you props for that.
I'm more actually in disbelief that you fell through the bait again. You guys fell for it.
We're just more living in hope than anything else.
It's the hope that kills you, Alice.
Gosh. Okay, I'll just leave.
On that positive note from Palms, let's hear from Max Verstappen, then victorious in Vegas.
It was a fun race. I mean, I already thought, with the layer that is here, that for racing with the DRS, it would be hard to pull away. And yeah, today was a good race. And also, with the 5-second penalty and then the safety car, some people pitted, some stayed out. So naturally, then you get a good race here.
Were all the decisions right, do you think, in terms of penalties and the stewards' investigations?
I mean, from my side, the only thing was that we had a good start, and I didn't mean to push him off the track. I just had no grip. We both braked, I think, very late, but of course I was even more off the racing line. And with a new track like this, I guess, first start for us as well, coming into turn 1. So we braked and we just, kept on sliding. I didn't mean to push him wide. I just couldn't keep the car on track.
And in terms of what this circuit offers, was it challenging enough for you? Have you enjoyed your time here in Vegas and looking forward to coming back?
No, it was good for racing. I mean, it's not challenging, but the racing itself was good because there's a lot of slipstream and then DRS effect. So if you pass, then if they keep on hanging into your DRS, then they have an opportunity to come back again. So that was good today.
So that was Max Verstappen, your winner here in Las Vegas. Jolyon, you say I fell for it again. Alice fell for it too, that we thought perhaps we could have had another Ferrari win in 2023. How does Max do it? He lulls us, doesn't he, into this false sense of security that we might have a battle on our hands, and then he just steamrollers through. Just so much in the locker.
Yeah. I mean, he's amazingly talented and he's driving a fast car. So that combination has been brutal in 2023. I'll give it to you. About lap 20 in this race, I was even thinking maybe he's not going to do it, because if you could have a Grand Prix where things were going wrong, okay, he took the lead from Leclerc at the start, but he got the penalty for it, and he, before he even served the penalty, was passed by Leclerc in the first stint on the track. The Ferrari just breezed past the Red Bull. Then he serves the penalty. He's stuck behind Russell for quite a long time, and you're thinking, actually, before he had the contact with Russell, he was looking quite quick. He obviously caught Russell and they were coming through the traffic. But Leclerc was still pumping in the times, did a decent first stint, pitted, covered them off, went onto the hard tyres. He'd been better in the first stint. You're thinking, I don't know how Verstappen is going to win this one necessarily. But he just got into his stride. The hard tyres worked for him, picked it up. Didn't matter that he had a damaged front wing in the end. And I think the ominous thing with Verstappen is when Leclerc's fighting out with Perez and they're swapping positions, Perez got him, Leclerc got him back, and then Perez is in second, you're thinking, we've got a race on our hands. As soon as that position swapped and Verstappen was in second, then you're on edge and you think this is going to be now the decisive move for the win, because Verstappen doesn't give you second chances.
You're nodding along, Alice. You're also yawning. So sorry about this. It's a late one.
It's not you guys that's boring me, don't worry. No, I agree, and I have to admit I fell into the trap at some point when we had the discussion. I thought maybe Perez, because Perez looked super, super racy at one point. But then I still carried on with the hope, saying, well, actually, on the medium tyres, Max Verstappen fell off. But then he kept it there, didn't he? And obviously Leclerc made that mistake, which then allowed Perez through. And I'm sure we'll touch on Leclerc's great move down the inside to get second place back. But yeah, I think it was a challenging one for Max. And I think that almost, when we've seen him win, especially in recent times, he's been like, yeah, that was a great race, thanks guys.
Lovely.
He really had to, I think he worked for this one, and I think he appreciated the win a bit more because, it was touch and go at times.
And also with all of this, every week we see just his amazing talent, and this race was one where we could witness it. Sometimes you can't. In Brazil, he's winning from lights to flag and he controls it. And, there's a lot of skill going on there, managing the tyres at a good pace. But you don't see him bringing back a position of loss to a victory. Sometimes you do get that. Austin was one where he had to start a bit further down And then this one as well. He had a damaged car. He'd already not had a good first stint. Damaged car with Russell. And then he's now behind his teammate. And Perez was running a really decent race as well in a not damaged Red Bull. And Max still managed to pick him off, have better pace, and deliver a really decent run to the flag and unchallenged in the end. And he's just so good, honestly. He makes very few mistakes. And so many times this year, it looks like he might not win. And almost always, he finds a way.
I have to say, when Max took the lead off the start and then managed to eke out a 1.3 second gap fairly quickly, I was worried it was going to turn into a boring race. But we had some moves coming from Charles Leclerc throughout that race that really kind of kept it alive. Some of those, Jolyon, you said, are like moves of the season.
Yeah, he passed a Red Bull 3 times in the Grand Prix and he still didn't manage to win it. So it shows the level of chopping and changing that we had. I loved his passes on Perez. They were basically the same move. He did it, and then he did it on the final lap as well, from quite a long way back. And it's just an old school lunge, which I love to see. It's a 2 kilometre straight down the strip. Loads of moves were being done with the DRS drive-by. It's a change of position, but I don't get off the edge of my seat particularly for them. But when you're sending in a lunge from a couple of car lengths back, cleanly down the inside, making the pass, there was nothing Perez could do to cover it. It was just great to see. For me, it was basically the same move, but on the last corner of the race, to send one, cleanly get it done. I don't think there's been many better than that this year.
And Charles was so confident, wasn't he, all weekend long in the Ferrari. We all thought that the Ferraris would go well here, but he especially has just been so switched on right from the get-go.
Yeah, was it free practice 2 that he was like half a second quicker than Carlos Sainz, and he had a great qualifying as well. But I think he'll be obviously happy with finishing second in terms of getting that move done at the last lap. You could see when he was in the Rolls Royce going to the Bellagio that he was happy, and he said, "Yeah, I really enjoyed that race." But I think he will still feel like this was probably my best. I mean, we're coming to the end of the season, but this was probably his best opportunity of the season in its entirety. I mean, we've got one left, but I think Abu Dhabi will be tough for them
to get the win. You mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
2 things. Firstly, the Ferrari strategy didn't pit under the safety car, so he was out there on a used set of tyres when the Red Bulls both pitted. That left him on the back foot. Now, they did that to try and keep track position over Perez, but given he was passed by Perez and passed him back twice, maybe the track position wasn't such the criteria that they needed, and actually having the fresher tyres would have given him the best shot to win, and in the end, Verstappen was the man he needed to beat and hold back. So, firstly, was that a chance? But I can understand why Ferrari, they weren't particularly used hards. I can understand why they kept him out. I don't think it was a ridiculous decision. The other thing is, he had no teammate. And he was having relentless attacks from both Red Bulls. It was really tricky. He was completely pincered by, first of all, Perez coming through. He's using everything to try and pass Perez. Gets the place. Then the next minute, he's got Verstappen on him. It was a race of a lot of difficulty for Leclerc, trying to fight them both off. Sainz qualified second. If Sainz was there with him, there's more strategic options that Ferrari can potentially do. There's another wingman for him to try and hold Verstappen back. It might have been a different outcome for Ferrari. They had a really good car, and I think the drivers basically drove pretty well as well.
2 versus 1. Charles up against Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. He was able to make the move stick and took P2 here in Vegas. Let's hear from him.
I enjoyed the last lap, even though I'm disappointed with the second place. We got unlucky, I think, with the safety car, because honestly, without the safety car, I'm quite confident saying that I think we would have won the race. We had the pace for that. The problem is that after the safety car, when you have to restart the used tyres, it's impossible. It's very, very difficult, and there we lost a bit of pace. But anyway, then coming back to the end of the race, it was super exciting with Checo. I knew I was coming back slowly, and I knew that it was all about that last lap. So in the second last lap, I started recharging the batteries a bit more to try and get ready for that last straight to deploy everything. And it worked out well, so I went for it, and it was a nice overtake.
That little altercation with Max Verstappen, do you think 5 seconds is enough for a driver with such an amazing car at the moment as a penalty?
I think it's the right decision, whether it's enough or not. I think you cannot decide whether it's enough or not based on how good his car is. So it needs to be consistent for everybody, and I think that was the right penalty. So I don't think he deserved more. I wish he had given me the position straight away. I think that would have been better for our race to have free air straight away, but it's the way it is.
And you were so confident out there this evening. I guess confident that a win was actually there for you this evening. But can you take that confidence into next weekend in Abu Dhabi, where the fight with Mercedes is going to go right down to the wire? Is there a Christmas bonus coming your way, do you reckon, if you can get P2 in the constructors?
I think Abu Dhabi is going to be very different to here. So I'm not sure we'll be fighting for the win there, but it will be tight with McLaren, with Mercedes, for sure. And we'll do absolutely everything to finish second in the constructors.
That was Charles Leclerc, driver of the day, voted for by the fans. And Jolene, you touched on the fact that obviously he didn't have his teammate Carlos Sainz there with him. Carlos qualified P2, but then had that 10-place grid penalty because of the water valve cover issue. He was frustrated after qualifying, and I think probably was driving a little frustrated this evening as well here in Vegas. But to manage to make it up to 6th in a car that's obviously strong around these streets, do you think he could be happy with the result eventually that he'd managed to sort of eke out from this weekend?
He was pointing backwards at the first corner. There was a load of drivers that had the second incident behind the Verstappen-Leclerc moment, and Sainz was right at the back of the field. To come back and get some reasonable points is okay. I feel a bit sorry for him. It's a weekend of huge razzmatazz. The Ferrari car was at its most competitive, really, this whole year, and for no fault of his own, he has a 10-place grid drop. Then he's pointing the wrong way. I don't think he was on Leclerc's level, in truth, this weekend, but he shouldn't have been fighting down towards the back. He was in the midst of battle. Every time he saw Sainz, he was with Alonso for most of it. Then he was with Hamilton. There was a load of big-name drivers fighting it out down the field. It was probably a really good, fun race for him, but not where he wants to be fighting.
So he finished up P6, benefiting from George Russell's penalty. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll have a little look at some of the other drivers, including Sergio Perez, who completed the podium. Let's cover off the third and final position on the podium. That went to Checo Perez this evening. Another last-minute loss for Checo Perez. Last time out in Brazil, he lost out to Fernando Alonso. This time he lost out to Charles Leclerc. It seemed like he thought he got the move done. I think he thought he had the win in the bag, but it wasn't to be. P3 for Checo on the road today. Do you think he should be disappointed?
I think maybe for not covering off Leclerc, but Leclerc was quite far back. But remember at the end of the first lap, Sergio was in the pit getting a new front wing because of contact at turn 1. So bearing in mind then that's him last, basically. Okay, we had 2 safety cars, which obviously bunches the field up. He did benefit from that and gained some places in pitting under safety car. But still, I think he did a good job. And I remember me and Benny said on air, hang on, maybe Perez is in a shout with the win for the win here, because he was setting fastest lap after fastest lap. He was closing Leclerc down really quickly. So I think that Perez should still be happy with that weekend. Okay, he was still a little bit far off Max, and Max came through to take the win in the end. But I still think it was a good job by Sergio.
He was quick, wasn't he? He was coming through the field well. His stint after he pitted early on set him up for this race. He was really strong. As the others pitted, he stayed out on his hard tyres and put it together really nicely so that he actually came out right with Leclerc fighting for the lead, took the lead. I think he was actually pretty good today. He's secured second in the championship, which is what he needed to achieve this year. He's done it the hard way, but finally, at least it doesn't go down to Abu Dhabi for him. The only thing for Perez, he's the Minister of Defense, isn't he? The Mexican Minister of Defense. He was a bit out of office today. He was done twice by Leclerc in the same move. You've got one corner to defend for second place. He didn't make it particularly hard. I loved Leclerc's move. I loved it. Maybe Perez thought it was from too far back. And
I think that's what it was. I think he was, because when you watch the onboard, he was miles back.
But you do that once.
Then you cover. And what do you tell young drivers? If you've got someone behind you that you think is close enough to make a move, especially when Leclerc had DRS, you defend. You tell them when they're 6-year-old going around in little Bambino carts. That's what you teach them when they first start getting racing. So yeah, that basic, he left the door open, really.
Yeah, I think the first move, you can understand it a little bit. You couldn't break away. The DRS is there, but on the last corner of the race, you don't need to worry about the exit too much. It's not a huge run. There's no DRS there like there was in Brazil. He's done it once to you before. Just at least go middle of the road, make it a bit harder for Leclerc to do it, as you say, Alice. But I think he should have had second in the race. Fair play to Leclerc for pulling off a nice move. Other than that, good drive from Perez.
Well, let's hear from Checo Perez. P3 for the Mexican driver.
Don't cry again. Yeah, obviously it is because, as you know, I've had some really high moments in the season, but some very low moments. So my season has been really high and really low. But I think it's been really important just to stay strong, to keep myself in position and focused on my target. In the end, I think getting that 1-2 was super important for our team, for myself. And we definitely coming back, and we're finishing the season strongly. So, yeah, we gotta keep doing this.
Checo, it was a difficult race for you from start to finish. A bit of contact at the beginning, then Charles making the move at the end. How proud are you of your performance this evening?
I think it was a good race. Once I was on the lead, things were looking really strongly for us. But I just couldn't pull away from Charles, so I realized that my top speed was really down. And when I was behind Charles, I couldn't attack him if I was 0.8, but if he was 0.8, he would have a shot at me. So, yeah, we were just lacking a little bit of top speed and we were clipping a little bit too much.
And of course, congratulations on taking P2 in the drivers' standings. Tell me a little bit how difficult it's been behind the scenes for you this year on a personal level.
Yeah, it's been a very challenging year for me personally. We started so strongly the year. Things were heading in the right direction, and then all of a sudden it took a U-turn, and things started to get a lot more complicated. And unfortunately, it took us a lot of races. I think as a team, as a group, we learned so much of this year that it's going to make us so strong for next year.
So you're feeling confident for 2024 now?
Yes, I think we are on the right track. We're certainly coming back, and we made some very good progress, and we are understanding what the issues are.
So I think Checo Perez can now breathe easy as he heads into Abu Dhabi. He's taken P2 in the drivers' standings. We've still got to establish who's taking P2 in the constructors' standings. It is close, 4 points now between Mercedes and Ferrari. Who do you think is going to win out, Jolien?
It's nice that there's something on the line for Abu Dhabi, isn't there? We've settled pretty much everything else now.
I thought Mercedes were going to jump on the opportunity today or last night, whenever you want to say we were racing, because Carlos Sainz had that penalty. That was a really good opportunity maybe for Mercedes to capitalise. But Ferrari outscoring both the Mercedes drivers. They're
on better form at the moment, but I don't know. I think Abu Dhabi should favour back towards Mercedes a little bit more. It's a winner takes all, really. 4 points between them. And I think McLaren will be back on form in Abu Dhabi as well, which might limit the bigger points for them. Been a really awful weekend for McLaren, qualifying really badly. Lando Norris crashing out as well, going over a big bump on the track, which he's been a bit vocal about, having now been released from hospital. But yeah, Mercedes 4 points ahead of Ferrari, so that's the last thing to watch out for in Abu Dhabi, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm with Joni. Like, it's difficult to pick who's going to come out on top there in that little battle.
Because reliability, putting a clean weekend together. I don't think either of them are going to be as competitive as they've been here. It's, small battles will probably do it.
Yeah, no, I think so. And as you said, Lando Norris has been released from the hospital, the doctors. I saw him limping a little bit back into when he got back into the paddock. But yeah, they should get that car fixed up, and he should be good to go. And they even said that they're expecting their form to be their form to be better in Abu Dhabi.
And Rosanna, I think you're overlooking the humdinger of a fight for fourth in the Drivers' Championship. Let's get excited for this.
Oh yeah, I'm just looking at that too. Carlos Sainz on 200, Fernando Alonso on 200, Lando Norris 195, Charles Leclerc on 188. So big points to play for. 4 drivers separated by 12 points.
Imagine if that was for the lead of the championship. Imagine. Oh no, now we're just going to get ourselves frustrated.
Now I'm sad again.
Sorry,
everything's wrapped up.
Sorry I overlooked that. Well, look, that's something to get excited for in the next 5 days or so.
Who's going to come out on top in that one?
Norris.
You think Norris? Go for Norris.
I'll go for Norris for fourth in the championship. He'll bounce back. McLaren should be quick.
Yeah. That's bold. Okay. What about you? Who are you going to go for out of those 4? Carlos, Fernando, Lando or Charles?
Not Fernando. Don't think Charles. So, it could be Charles. No. Do you know what? I'll go Carlos. I think it'll be between Carlos and Lando.
Rosanna?
I'll watch it and I'll just see what
Magnussen.
happens.
This is where our predictions come down to it at the end of the
I feel like
2023
we're
season.
We're just tired now. We're like, I don't know.
What's on the line, and it's all about who might snaffle away fourth in the Drivers' Championship.
So much
What a year.
conjecture. Well, I'll give you the top 10 then from the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Max Verstappen ahead of Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez. Esteban Ocon just off the podium in Alpine with Alpine. And then Lance Stroll having a good race, finishing P5 ahead of Carlos Sainz, who managed to move up through the field. Then it was the two Mercedes headed by Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso P9, and Oscar Piastri taking the last point. So that's how things have shaken out here in Vegas. Come on then, give me your full reflection on your time spent here in Sin City, Julian.
Just as a quick one, Alpine were really good today as well. We haven't really mentioned anyone of the smaller teams, which is including Alpine now. But Ocon was good, 16th up to 4th, very impressive. And Gasly was flying as well. They didn't, I don't think, get his strategy right, and he tumbled down the order, didn't get points. Alpine were great. I was a bit disappointed that Williams couldn't get a point from 5th and 6th on the grid. Haas had a top 10 starting berth, so did Alfa Romeo. None of the teams fighting for 7th in the championship got anything. And I thought this could be a sort of minnow's day, particularly when a lot of the faster drivers were also pointing the wrong way at the first corner as well.
Come on, you're avoiding my question about Vegas. What's your overriding opinion of the place and the race?
Yeah, I like it. What a great race. It's a modern classic venue, isn't it? Iconic streets, great racetrack, good race.
So you're signing up for next year?
Yeah.
There was a pause there. You had to think about it.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, what am I going to do in the daytime? The race is great. I don't know if you'll see me punting down the canals in the Venetian next year, but I'll think of something to do in the day, and I will definitely be back because the race is good in the evening.
Yeah. It's a nice one, I think. The race gave us more than we were expecting, I think, Alice.
Yeah, no, I mean, we knew there was going to be overtaking. We knew that there was potentially going to be some carnage along the way. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more races of Formula One in the streets of Las Vegas.
Marks out of 10, please.
I'm going to go with 9, and the only reason why I'm going with 9, that's quite a high one. It would be a 10 because the race was brilliant. It's long weekend. It's tiring, isn't it, with the time zone? My body doesn't like all this going to bed at 5 a.m.
As Alice reclines on the sofa. Julian, marks out of 10?
I think a 8 or a 9. Look, we can't ignore the fact that this water valve did cause havoc on Thursday. The fans weren't happy. We were all up until 4 o'clock in the morning.
I've forgotten that had happened.
You can't. Well, for the first race, you can't ignore the fact that the track wasn't accurately inspected, and it was a bit shambolic. After that, the event has been superb. We had a brilliant race, and I do think this will be a great mainstay on the calendar.
And I reckon a lot of people are going to be talking about this weekend for quite a while to come. What happens in Vegas won't stay in Vegas, quite frankly.
What are you giving it out of 10?
I'm going to give it an 8.5.
The median.
Yeah, I could do better on certain aspects, but I think looking at the fans as they were coming out of the circuit, they all looked like they'd had a good time. I think if you were there spectating, I think you were treated to some good action over the course of between qualifying and the race.
And if you weren't there, you were either listening to us or you were watching a superb race on the telly.
Exactly. What a treat of a weekend. Formula One moves to Abu Dhabi now for the final round of the season. Cannot believe we're almost there. Big thank you to Alice Powell and Jolyon Palmer for dissecting and analysing the Las Vegas Grand Prix. It's going to be the first of many. Viva Las Vegas. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.